Hi there. It's my Seeburg Disco SMC, and it's not moving down the rack. I used a lot of oil on it so far, and as you can hear, it's pretty quiet. I mean, that's a nice quiet sounding motor in there, you know? Problem is it just isn't doing the things it needs to do here. So I can trip a record. And now it plays nicely. Oh, it's a crappy record. I mean, you know, smoking in the boys' room is popular, I guess. I'm using it because I will never put it in my jukebox. But see, after I reject it, it does not. It should be going down. It's just going to just sit here, which is not what it should do. I've oiled everything I possibly can oil that can reach. There's just things that you just can't reach back in here, you know. As much as I'd like it to, it's just something in there. See, it just did it. Repeat the record now. Great. So my guess is somewhere down in that yoke, it's not working right. I can hear the trip. I mean, this is working. So it was going before to doing it once, putting the record back and then just staying open, to now he's just doing the same record over and over. These are all indicative of not having the right lubrication where it needs to be in the places that are the hardest to get to. So even though I could get to all these spots down in here, you know, it's not enough. And there you go. And I'm just going to turn this off. Can't hurt that record. Horrible record. Other than sell cigarettes in those stores. Oh, by the way, this is the motor oil that I use. The old bottle. New bottle. It looks a little cleaner. I just use this little guy. Got from the craft store. You can suck up a little bit of oil and drip out as you want. Much easier than trying to get that bottle in where you want it to be. It just doesn't work very well. I also use various straws and coffee stir sticks and long Q-tips and things. So I have put it everywhere, but the hardest place to put it that I can't get to is way the heck down in here on the clutch. I can get to some areas, but I just can't get where I want it to be. And I think that's my problem. So time to take out the record rack, which I really didn't want to do, but I'm going to. So I used a blue Sharpie, and I'm going to Sharpie around the edges so that I know exactly where this piece fits back on that one, because it does have some play, as you can see, as to where it goes exactly. So I'm just going to put it exactly back where you found it. Alright, so I resorted to taking out the entire Mech, unplugging it, carefully lifting it out, sitting it on my table, because I need to get to these pieces down in here, and I have this record rack in the way, and I used copious amounts for days of the correct oil, and it was still sitting and spinning and rejecting and playing the same record over and over again. All these things tell me that it needs some internal lubrication that I just couldn't get to. So, took off screws on each side of the record rack, and I'm going to set this down now to be able to pick it up. Alright, so with the record rack off, it's amazing what you can actually get to now. You can actually see all the pieces and parts in there that you couldn't possibly ever get to. Oh, by the way, this is the clutch. And that's the safety plunger, and these are two of the big issues that I'm having. So I really don't want to take the clutch off. I can if I need to, but it's a pain, and it's a pain to get back on, and pain to, anyway, I don't want to do it. So I'm going to break down and use this stuff, PB Blaster. I'm not a big fan of Blaster, but it works. So after it basically gets things loose. And once I'm done, then I'm going to go back in and try to wipe it off and use some more regular oil. And but the problem with Blaster is it blasts everywhere. I mean, it's just a spray, you know. So then I'm going to be probably cleaning all my contacts with the contacts cleaner. And I've got various ads from various stores that I'm going to be putting around this, because this just goes everywhere, and I don't like it everywhere. And so probably even going to take off this set of contacts here and just stick them in like a, I don't know, plastic bag, just to keep them away from it, and then I'm going to clean them later and put them back on. But for now, I really want to get in there and just blast the snot out of it and let it sit for a while, so I can get my issues done and this thing running again. So laugh at me all you want, but I went and put a bag on my contacts, and I kind of put a junk mail paper tent around it, just because I don't like to clean all the other stuff. I mean, I got on the floor and it did things to the floor and counters, and it smells bad anyway. Time to spray. Okay, so you can see my puddle of PB Blaster just running along here. Got a half a can of this stuff, and I literally got in there and just did whatever I could do and just kept going. It's just totally covered now, every place I can get, and now it's just time to wait. Give it time to do its thing. Alright, so I've now PB Blastered the bejeebers out of it, and everything in there has got as much as it's going to get. Now it's time to just wipe everything down. So a lot of paper towels and a lot of generic dollar store Q-tips, and I'm just out here just wiping everything down, getting all the gunk off of it, every little nook and cranny, because anywhere that you leave excess oil is a place that's going to just build up dust and dirt and grime. So why do you want to do that? So time to clean and then put her back together and see if it worked. I almost hate to talk over this song, I like it so much. I'm going to turn this motor coupling, which is just going to then move the mech down the carriage. And in order to do that, I'm going to give it some space because there's wires under there. So I'm just going to take, I just found some foam, I'm just going to lift it up and put these foam spacers underneath on both sides, just to lift it up a bit, just to give it a little extra space for that wire to roll around under there. Just doesn't bind or anything. So to get this thing to shuttle, move down, I pushed the safety plunger. I was able to get it this time to push it out of the way of that, so this drops down, because this was up underneath that, and that was kind of up under there, and that allowed it now to be able to shuttle. And so if I reach around, the only place I'm going to turn this at is right here. If I can see that or not, the light, we get a light on there. Trusty light. So this little guy right here is a motor mount coupling. That's a rubber piece that goes from the motor up, and so that's what I'm going to turn with my fingers. And when I turn that, you see this slightly turning this wheel, and what it's doing, if you can see this at all, I don't know if it's even slightly, you see it moving? See the wheel moving there? So I'm making this go down by spinning this. It's moving down, down, down. It's allowing me to kind of get it to move down so I can clean all my gunk out from here, because that was just, 4 ounces of PB Blaster everywhere. So as I'm cleaning everything, I'm going in behind after I've cleaned as much as I possibly can. I'm using my 3-in-1 with the Q-tip to get way down in there. So what I'm trying to get down into, it's hard to point at because I don't have 3 hands, And the light, if I take the light away, you can't see it. But I'm going to put a Q-tip down there. So this is right here, tip of the Q-tip. That's where I was trying to get to, I couldn't get to. That little guy under the Q-tip. So I'm going to move the Q-tip away. Areas like that I needed to oil. And areas way back in and under. And also the bottom of the clutch. Which I don't know if you can see this or not. If I can get it in here. So yeah, the bottom of the clutch. You really can't get in here unless you take off the record rack. And you really can't get it really well unless you spray it all with PB Blaster. And you really don't want to do that while it's in the machine or with the record rack on, because then your record rack is going to get PB Blaster on it as well as other things, and it's just not a good, it's penetrating oil, but it's kind of disgusting, you know? So yeah, so that's where I'm at. So I wiped off as much as I could, coming back in with some 3-in-1 to now actually lubricate it, and wiping off anything that doesn't need it. And then I'm going to put her back in, and I'm going to clean the contacts and put it back in and see what it does. Oh, and just to let you know, so if before everything was kind of gummy in here, okay? And now working on it all, I can, you see this, it actually moves. I let go, it goes back and forth. Before it was like slow. This piece, slow. Now it goes nice and smooth. Let's look at that, doing its thing. These pieces here, see, going back and forth, moving them up and down, just making things happen, just making all, basically I'm doing this, what I'm doing is I'm moving all those little pivot points that I PB blasted and oiled, so as you move things, it gets it into the areas where all the varnish is. And if I didn't mention before, the real problem with all these is that over time, the old oil turns into sludge or varnish or glue or goo or whatever the word you want it to be, but it no longer is a lubricant, it's the opposite. So now we're just trying to get in some new stuff where the old stuff was to get the old stuff out of there. But this is basically all I'm doing, is just trying to make everything pivot on the yoke and on the clutch. And anything to do with the safety spring, everything in here, get it moving, get it happy. You'll be a lot happier for the long run.